All right. So can everybody see my little OneNote file that says Microsoft Office 2016 test? Okay, good. Excellent. Okay, well, first of all, everyone, thank you very much for coming today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jason Manabog, the Senior Instructor here at LearnKey. If you've taken any of the Office 2016 courses so far, you've seen me. Also, if you took A+ or Network+, you've seen me as well. So, don't know if that's so good or bad, but anyway, but what I wanted to talk about today was very simply this: the differences between the Office 2013 test and the Office 2016 test. And this won't actually take very long. We should have a decent amount of time left over for questions. But wanted to let you know that if you're planning on, I don't know, a lot of you are doing an Office 2013 track or 2016 track, and I'm not here to tell you which track to take. Not at all, because both of those are going to be common and front and center for quite some time. In fact, there's still a lot of companies out there using Office 2010, so it's not like Office 2013 is going anywhere. But what has changed is the way the tests are presented in Office 2016. In that, what they did was, just to give you a little background, what they did for Office 2013 was they had made some changes to the tests to where instead of having a lot of small projects, basically you're inside one big project. So if you're in Word, it's kind of like one big document. If you're in Access, it's a big database. And if you're in Excel, it's a big spreadsheet or whatever. And you're just basically in one file, maybe two, but basically one file the whole time. So that was something that they tried for 2013. Well, I can tell you for Office 2016, it's no longer the case. What they've done is they've actually, and I don't know if any of you have certifications from 2010 and prior, but they actually went back to how they did the test before, which is instead of you're having one very large project, you'll have a handful of smaller projects. And I want to say, I mean, I don't remember the exact number, and I think it kind of varies depending upon the difficulty or whatever, but it's 5, 6, 7, 8 projects, something like that. You get ample time. I don't remember the exact time. I want to say it was close to an hour, maybe 50 minutes or something like that. But if you do your due diligence before the test, the timing won't be a factor. So I'll talk more about that in a minute. But you get 5 to 6, 7, 8 projects, something like that. And each of those will have about 4 or 5 tasks. And of those 4 or 5 tasks, you got to do some stuff, and then it's a matter of saving the file and submitting the project and moving on to the next project. So that's the biggest difference with these 2016 tests, is they've gone back to the older way of doing it. So far, the feedback has been extremely positive on that as far as the way they've done the tests. Plus, to me, it takes away a lot of anxiety, because with the 2013 tests, and this isn't necessarily true, but a lot of people feel like, well, if I miss one thing or if I'm not sure about one thing on the test, then it might set off a chain reaction of mistakes that will cost me points later on. That's actually not true. Each task is its own separate entity, and that's how you're scored. But with 2016 having smaller projects, or I should say a bunch of small projects, and like I said, within each project, I don't remember the exact number, but it was between 4 and 8 tasks, I think, for each project. Some only had 4, some had 5, some had up to 8. I don't think there were any that had more than 8. Just to give you the disclosure, I've taken all of the Office 2016 exams so far except for Outlook. I had signed up for the beta, and I couldn't get the machine to work the way I needed to, so I didn't get an extension on the beta. So I'll take the real test when it comes out, and I'll be happy to report back to anyone who's curious. But I've already taken Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Access. Did fine on those. So I've got the Access. I don't think is out yet. I got the beta for that, but I mean, they scored high enough, so no problem there. But the biggest thing is, like I said, instead of having one big project, we'll get a bunch of smaller projects. Just to show you a quick example here. I'm just going to open up Word. I'm just going to open up a file that I have here, and then I'll show you what I mean by having smaller projects here. So let's see. What could we use here that's not giving away any secrets? Okay, if any of you are studying for any project management tests, you'll probably cringe when you see this. But This is just a document that I've had from before. And so you'll get something like this. And you'll get like, so your program will be up here, and your tasks will be down at the bottom half of the screen. And you'll see there's like 4 or 5 different things. And so one of the first things they might tell you is, put a heading 2 style on the heading. Okay, so you go and select it and you put a heading 2 style on it. You might get asked to change in the same document, say this list from 1, 2, 3 to ABCs or something like that. So it's just a matter of selecting the list, going up here to the ribbon and making the change. You could get asked to maybe copy a format using the format painter from, say, one place to another. So again, they don't structure the questions to run on each other. So it's one of those things where if you miss one or you're not sure on one, don't worry about it for the rest because it's on separate entity here. I'm just showing you a couple of things you might get asked for as an example. And then, something along these lines here, you might be asked, is this the smart art here? Yeah. Okay, so you might be asked to take the smart art here and make a change or two. Like maybe make this a sub point of this one or something like that. So it'd be a matter of just getting in here and indenting this particular one. Or not. Forgot on this, I got to drag the mouse to do it. But I can't seem to get the mouse in the right spot right now, so I'm not going to worry about it. But stuff like this. Or you might be asked to change the text or something like that. Or maybe, if it's smart art, you might be asked to come up here and change the design. Now, this brings me to a pretty important point. You're going to see this, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, for anything involving styles. And I don't mean styles like text styles, I mean styles like formatting styles. On the exam, you're going to be given a very particular style they want. So let me just reselect the smart art, for example. And here are a bunch of smart art styles. Now, this is a really key concept, and this is something that I covered in the 2016 courses. And that is, if you get a question asking for a style, please do yourselves a favor and take the time to roll your mouse over these styles. Wait until you see the name of it before you commit. All right, so if you're watching what I'm doing here, I'm taking my time on this. So let's say they want something with a moderate effect. Well, you're not going to click the drop-down arrow and then just know, oh, which one's a moderate effect. I mean, if you happen to know which one it is, more power to you. But that's not the key here. The key is to roll your mouse over these, wait for the tooltip to come up, and then when you see the exact effect that they want, that's when you go ahead and go for it. And a lot of these, in fact, I've got a table right here. This is a really good example, actually. So let's say they say, okay, on the table, take the table and do something with it style-wise. All right, so I've got the table selected, and I'm on the Design tab. Now, when you are looking at styles, all right, they get very specific on this. So I'm just going to roll my mouse over this. They might say on the test, grid table 3, accent 5. Again, my advice to you, all of you, is take your time with those questions. Make sure that you're matching up the exact style that they want with what they ask for in the bottom half of the screen. If you do that, then it's an easy answer to the question. And if you miss, you miss. Well, but this is one you shouldn't miss. This is one where you should be able to just take your time, go through, select the correct one, and then go for it. So this I'm telling you, you will see for Word tables, you'll see for smart art, both in Word and PowerPoint. You'll see this for charts and Excel and possibly PowerPoint. And for sure, you're going to see this in Excel tables. So anything involving a style, a pre-built style, take your time with those. Make sure you choose the correct one. That's one thing that's pretty important here. So I'll go ahead and choose this one. There we go. And that one's not the prettiest one, but hey, we don't get judged on the test for looks, it's for what they want. So there you go. A couple other things regarding these documents. And like I said, there's a lot of crossover here. You can take a lot of these things and have the same kind of situation happen in PowerPoint, for example, or like I said, for Excel tables or things like that. Let me just insert a picture in here. You might be asked to insert a picture, and that's the other thing too. If you do get asked to insert a picture, Make sure that you are pointed to the correct folder, because they'll be specific. They'll tell you which folder to select the picture from. So make sure you are on top of that. Okay, so it's something like this. I've got a picture selected. This is a possible Word or PowerPoint situation. Same thing here with picture styles. Make sure you hover the mouse over something long enough so that you get the style that they're asking for. So I just chose metal frame for this one, and it moved my picture down. And don't worry if it moves your stuff on the screen. That's not a concern. The concern is that you get the correct one. Also, and I have to say, I don't remember seeing more than maybe one or two of these exams. But if for some reason, all right, they're asking you about a border or effects or something like that, and you're thinking, hey, I can't find this here. All right, so let's say you got a certain shadow effect or whatever. They're usually specific enough to tell you that it's a custom shadow or something like that, and there's your cue to go to shadow options. And then you'll see the task pane come up on the right, and you'll make your changes there. But the chances you're going to get a question like that are pretty small. Remember one thing, it's a 50 to 60 minute exam. So they're not going to get overly detailed here, especially not for these core exams. But just in case you get a situation like that, this is how you get to the details over here. I can tell you that the one time that you will probably end up in that situation is if you're being asked to put alternative text on a picture or a table. That's something you want to look out for. So if you do get this to come up, then you do want to head over to where you can find the alternative text. If you're taking the test, just keep clicking on these until you see the one you want, although it's layout and properties. And then you can get over alternate text, and you can put your alternate text in here. I'll just put a title and description. And if you get a tough question on this one, make sure you take the time to read the question, as far as whether they're asking for a title and a description or just the title. More than likely, you'll get a title and description to do. I'll put an appropriate description in here. If you're Sharks or if you're San Jose Sharks fan, I'm Ducks fan, seeing this, haha. But anyway, stuff like that you could get asked about. Now, getting back to a little bit more general stuff. Okay, so something like this, I mean, I just went through about 5 or 6 things. And then the project's done. Now, very important, and I mean very important, make sure you save before you submit. In fact, let me just tell you one thing. When I took the Word test, I passed. My score was a little bit lower than I thought it should be. Not because I'm like, you know, Mr. Word King or anything like that, but I could pretty much, I've taken enough of these certification tests, I can pretty much tell you what my range of score is going to be before I see it, all right? I'm pretty sure I forgot to save one of my projects. Now, on that particular test, I got 7 projects, I think it was. And now, you think about it, if you forget to save one, that's 15% of your exam right there. So, you know, that gets you from 1,000 down to 850 before you even blink. And I got a little bit under 850. I mean, I still ended up passing. But I was a little surprised to see the score, and then I went back and I thought about it for a few minutes. I think, you know what, I might have forgotten to save one of my projects. So I would say, get in the habit of making sure you save before you submit. There's going to be a submit button down here somewhere on the screen when you take the test. Make sure you avoid the trap of submitting before saving. Always make sure you save your project first. Now, unlike previous exams, they do let you go back and check your work. They let you mark things for review, which is great. Still, get in the habit of saving every 2 or 3 tasks, and you won't have any problems. And make sure you save before you submit. That's the most important thing here. Because, again, you're doing several small projects, and if you forget to save one, it's going to really knock your score down, as it did mine. And like I said, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But I figured I got about 900, and then I saw like 800 or something, somewhere in that neighborhood, and I was a little bit surprised. Like I said, pass is pass, but, you know, make sure you do the little things right so that you maximize your chances of scoring very well on the test. So, all right, so that's an example of what you'll see for a possible test question with, or test questions, I should say, with one project, and about 5 or 6 things to do. And then once you submit it, you get taken to the next project. And That's basically how the deal works for the Office 2016 exams. Now, a couple of particulars here, and I emphasize this in the courses. Number one, make sure you know how to function on the ribbon pretty well. I'm not saying you need to memorize the entire ribbon, okay? But make sure that you, when you go through the project workbooks, and if you are taking the 2016 courses, I would highly encourage you're going through the project workbooks, because those just help you get more and more ready for the test, because we geared the workbook exercises to look a little bit like test questions here, where we could. But my point is, the better that you know the ribbon, the better you can find things. Okay, first thing. Secondly, you can count on getting a few questions here and there about the backstage view that I just went to here. So when you view the courses, pay close attention to any time I go to the backstage view, because there's a pretty decent chance you're going to get a test question on something in the backstage view. Let me give you a couple of pointers. If it's about changing file properties, that's in the backstage view. If it's something about protecting the document, sometimes it's going to be in the backstage view. If it's about inspecting the document, and by the way, that's a test objective, you're going to be in the backstage view. So, and that goes for any Office program, really, not just Word. Also, if you're going to export something, if they have you save something with a different format, that's in the backstage view. If you see a test question asking to change options, for example, here's Word. I just clicked on options. You might be asked to change maybe under display. In fact, okay, I'm not actually saying what I got on the test or what I saw on the test. I'm just giving you a strong hint here that you might get a test question asking you to show certain formatting marks on the screen. That's also a backstage view thing. So, sit for the test. You don't have to memorize all these things, but do take the time to go to the backstage view on whatever program you're testing on and go through these options. Just have an idea what's there. And then, when you go to take the test, all right, if it's something program specific, it's not so much document specific, chances are you're going to the backstage view, number one. Number two, if you are looking up and down all over the ribbon, you don't find it, whatever it is they're asking you to do, go to your backstage view. A lot of times it'll be under options, and you'll just have to look for a little bit. Again, if you've done your due diligence before the test, a lot of these tasks you'll be able to do in 30 seconds or less. So that will give you a little extra time to go through some of these other ones, a little bit more obscure ones, let's say. Now, as far as the tests go, that's basically it. That's what you see, basically what you're about to see on the exam for Office 2016. Again, if you are going through our LearnKey courses on this stuff, please do take the time to go through the workbook projects, because, like I said, one thing, I recently took over that part of the operation around here as far as being in charge of writing. And so what I'm really trying to do with these workbooks now is really make them short, the exercises I'm saying, the projects, short, sweet, and mimicking what one might see on the test. So the more practice you get on that, the better off you're going to be. And plus, one more important thing on this, because you do get several projects on the test, listen, and each task is sort of in its own container. If you get stuck on a task, or I should say, if you look at a task and you're like, oh, I don't know, mark it for review, take your best guess, keep moving. And with whatever time you have left, you can go back to it. Try to figure it out. Just make sure that if you do go back to a question later on, make sure you save and submit it. That's all. So, recapping. Big difference, the old is new. In other words, you're getting multiple projects now instead of a single project. Spend some time in the backstage view before you take the test. Also with styles, and I'm talking about formatting styles here, not paragraph styles, because that's a separate issue. For formatting styles overall, just know how to use that ribbon. Know how, make sure you hover your mouse over those things and take your time with those. And just speaking from experience, I'm about medium speed test taker, I suppose, and I was able to get through the stuff pretty comfortably. So, I mean, what I was actually doing during test, of course, because I'm kind of since I teach this stuff, is I was trying to really focus in on what kinds of questions they were asking, and I just shared some of that with you. So, and also, one more thing, and then I'll open it up to questions here. Do take the time to go to Microsoft's website and download these if you need to, but do take the time to go through the test objectives. In fact, let me give you a little math here. Okay, here we see about, let's see, 30, 37, 40, 44, 50, 56, 63, 70. Okay, we see about 80 lines of objectives. Well, if you look at 5, 6, 7 projects, maybe 8 projects, and you average about 6 tasks per, that's 48, you're going to get tested on 60% of these objectives at least. And some of those tasks might hit more than one objective. So make sure you take the time to go through the objectives, make sure you know that stuff well. The good news is the way we did the course for Office, and I'm saying all the Office courses, is we're covering the objectives in the exact order in which they're presented. There might be just a couple of small exceptions here and there. But both for the video and for the workbook, things are pretty much in order. So when you go through something, I mean, you can pretty much pinpoint, oh, okay, maybe I'm struggling a little bit with, I don't know, adding document properties. Well, then I'm just going to go back and watch that video in session 1 under customizing options and views, whatever. So, and if you're going back and watching things in the video, you can kind of look around what this is and see, oh, okay, it must be near displaying the window or formatting symbols or whatever. So we try to make it a little bit easier for people to study this round. So I think that's about all I've got as far as what to expect on the exams. So I'm going to open this up to questions. Does it matter if you do Control-S or click Save? It shouldn't, but I would click Save just to be safe. Nicole had a question about macros. You won't see any on the test. But go ahead and ask. Oh, wait, that's 2016. Okay, now 2013, we might. But go ahead, but yes, Nicole, your question about macros. Depends what program we're talking about here. Oh, you didn't. You took the test Friday. Oh, okay. All right, good. That's another thing too. Previous versions of Office, and by the way, this is for anything. What we've really started to do with the 2016 stuff is we're just covering what's on the test. So if macros aren't there, we're not going to have macros. We just won't. So you might ask to use a macro, but it's not. See, the thing is with Word and Excel for 2013, yeah. See, for 26, okay, so for 2016, that stuff all got moved to the expert exams. You're just wondering what macros are? Oh, well, I'll be happy to show you. Nicole, would you prefer to see one in Word or Excel? Because there's a difference between the two. Yeah, because some of you in 2013, you might still get macro questions. You already tested out on Word, so I guess you want to see an Excel one, right? Yeah, okay, no problem. Let me bring up Excel. Now, this is Excel 2016, but it's the same thing, how macros work for 2013. So I'm going to do a very simple one here. All right, I just got to find a file that I can deal with. Yeah, this ought to work. I got to remember not to save any of these changes when I'm done. Okay. Slice theme? Yeah, okay, Mo, hang on 1 minute. We'll go look for it. Okay, so for those of you wondering about macros, macros automate processes. So let's say, for example, and this is not going to be the best of macros, but this will be a pretty quick one here. So let's say, for example, I've got these 2 sheets. And let's just say, for example, that I wanted to do some things on each sheet, like maybe do some formatting, maybe add some text like that. So what I can do is I can record a macro. Now there's actually two ways you can build macros. You can either record them or you can write programming code. Trust me when I say recording is easier. But I'm going to go ahead and record a macro here. And I'm just going to call it that. And understand about macros, they cannot have spaces in them. You can have underscores, but you can't put spaces in them. The other thing you have to figure out when you're recording a macro is, where am I storing this thing? Now, if you want to put a keyboard shortcut in there, you can. I'm not going to here. Because one thing about keyboard shortcuts is, if you put one in that is already taken, this will step all over it. So to give you an example, if I put Control X here, then instead of cutting text next time I do this, it's going to actually run this macro. So you want to be careful about that. So I'm going to avoid the keyboard shortcut. Also, I just want the macro to be in this workbook. If you store it in a personal workbook, it'll be available for all your files. But if you're just trying to get some formatting on one file, then it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to store it there. Also, with macros, if I've got this workbook open, I can run this macro anytime I want, even if I've got 10 other files open. So one thing to keep in mind. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. Now I'm going to start recording what I'm doing here. So I'm going to record the fact that I'm going to go to this cell right here, and I'm going to make some changes to the format. Then I'll take this cell and I'll make a couple of changes here. And then I'm going to, let's have some fun with this. If I move that, things are going to get messed up. So I'll just cut this column over here. Wait for Excel to actually respond again. That figures. Well, oh, there we go. All right. I'll do the insert cut cells. Now, when you are working with a macro, this is no test question you're going to see. You always want to make sure the cursor's in a safe place when you're done. For example, if I were to stop recording right now, this column will still be highlighted. Somebody might have, yeah, and what happens is, somebody might type something here or something. So you don't want that. You want to put the cursor in a safe place when you're done. And then the stop recording, there's a stop button right down here. Or I'll go to View, I'll go to Macros, and I'll stop recording. So what's the big deal about having the macro? Well, if I go over to this sheet, watch what happens when I run it. I'll go to View, I'll go to Macros, I'll click View Macros, I'm going to run this. So what happened? All the steps that I had recorded on the previous sheet just happened here. So there are more uses than that for macros, but that's the gist of it. What it does is it allows you to record a bunch of steps, save them in a macro, and then run that macro wherever you need it. And Mo, congratulations on finding your slice theme in PowerPoint. Good. Okay, so that's, in a nutshell, that's what a macro is. The most common use for a macro in Word will be to maybe put a consistent header or footer in a document. See, because some people will say, well, I can use macros to do formatting, and for that I would say you should be using styles instead. I mean, that's what they're there for. But that's just my opinion. Okay, so Nicole, did that help, and for anybody else who is curious, did that help kind of explain what the whole thing about a macro is? Macros basically allow you to take many steps and turn them into one step. Or if you're counting, maybe 2 or 3 steps. Go into the View, Ribbon, Tab, go into Macros, running the macro. So one time, just to finish that thought, I had, this is actually a good story. This was years ago. But I had a vice president's administrative assistant come to me in a panic because she just got handed this Excel file. It had like 80 sheets on it. And the VP, to say he was very detail-oriented in particular would be the understatement of the day. He was far beyond that. Not that that's a bad thing, that's just how he rolled. So he took the time to format one of the Excel sheets exactly the way he wanted, column width, colors, fonts, you name it. And so he needed this format to actually be applied to the other 80 or so sheets, and he needed it done by tomorrow morning, and it was already mid-afternoon when she got this. So what do? We recorded a macro mimicking one of the steps that he did. We ran it on the other 80 sheets. We were done in an hour or less. And 50 minutes of that was spent just figuring out what this guy wanted. So once we figured that out, it took 10 minutes, literally, to record the macro, and then just run it on all the different sheets. And then she was done. So that is definitely a benefit. All right, well, since Mo found the slice theme, we don't need to go there. Again, with those themes, it's just a matter of, I've got Excel right here, so I'll show you. Same thing in PowerPoint, though. With themes, Nicole, there's the back of all the workbooks. So back of the Word workbook, back of the Excel workbook, project workbook, we've got keyboard shortcuts. I think it's like second to last page or something like that. I think we've got them in the Office workbook. I better look before I say for sure. Give me a minute there. Okay, themes. If you are asked to choose a theme, remember that you might have to scroll down to see it. That's all. Same thing goes for when you're working in, see, we're in Excel here. I don't have this in a table. But when you're working in Word, for example, or let me go back to this table over here. And let's say you get asked to choose a certain table design. You might have to scroll to find it. So don't be bashful. Here, I got to put the proper colors in for yesterday's activity. There we go. Much better looking now. So, just I'm sure you'd like that too. Yeah, I'm checking on my other screen the workbooks right now, Nicole, so give me just a moment. Waiting for a file to open here. Alrighty, so let me get near the end. Yeah, the back of the Office workbooks, there's a whole series of shortcut keys. So in each project workbook, the PDFs that you get from the LearnKey site, the online expert, I should say, they're either the last page or second to last page or something like that, but we've got them. It's okay. So Josh is asking a question: is the exam for Word 2016 similar to Word 2013? In structure, okay. In substance, yes. In structure, no. In substance, it's pretty similar. You do want to review the exam objectives just to make sure. But as I covered earlier, instead of having just one big project to work with, you get a bunch of smaller projects to work with. So it does cover, you know, the same kind of acumen. It's just they do it differently on the 2016 tests. So you get 5, 6, 7, 8 projects. You get a few tasks for each one, but each project is its own entity, its own container. So that's the difference. How do I have bullets and have new points to have? What's this now? How do I have bullets and have new points? You mean to add to the end of a bulleted list? Well, it's on Gmetrics. Only thing is, I'm not sure what are they asking you to add bullets? Yeah, sure. As soon as I figure out how to do that. Yeah, just make sure you make me the presenter again when you're done. Okay, well, I'll take a look at Mo's screen here. Okay, in slide 2, add star bullets to each point in the main text box in the way that will cause new points to add them as well. Okay, So you see how that box is selected right there? All right. Okay, I see what they want now. So let me let's see, how do we want to do this? Yeah, go ahead and throw it back over to me, and I'll bring it up in PowerPoint and show you a couple tricks here. Thank you. Thank you, Mo. All right. Let's see. Okay, so are you all back to seeing my Word document? I'm glad you brought this up because there's something very particular with this that we want to make sure we understand here. Where the heck is my PowerPoint? There we go. Oh, hey, okay, thanks for joining us, Caesar. Okay, let me bring this up. Okay, so the question is, change the star bullets, but do it in such a way where new bullets are going to be star bullets. All right, here's a big PowerPoint tip for all of you. There is a big difference between this border around your screen, or around your text box, and it might be a little bit hard to see here, but right now my border is dotted, okay? Now if you don't mind, I'm just going to take a couple of minutes on this. So with this dotted border, what I want you to notice is that there's a cursor blinking inside the box. Now what that means is that any change that I make, like with bullets for example, is only going to change what I've got selected. So for example, I've got this one line selected here, all right? Now let's say I go find the star bullet. There we go. Okay, so I'm guessing it's that one. Now before I even make the change, what I want you to notice is it's only changing that one. Why? Because I've got a cursor in here. Now, the question is specifically saying make sure that future bullets are stars. Well, let's say I go and I highlight all this text. And let's say I make that change. Okay, so far so good. Now watch what happens when I press enter. We're on a star bullet, but this is where you're taking a risk, okay? If you don't have the very end highlighted, your next bullet is still going to be that dot that we saw earlier. So let me undo a couple of things here. This is what you're getting at, okay? Very important in PowerPoint to distinguish between having a cursor and not having a cursor. Now, I just clicked the outside border. The border is once again solid. And because the border is solid, watch what happens now when I make that change, okay? Okay, first of all, I changed everything in here, and then for sure, next bullet's a star. The point is, if you want to affect everything in the box, including what's going to happen in the future in that box, make sure the entire box is selected. Make sure you don't have a cursor in there. And then what will happen is any change that you make is going to affect the entire box. So really that's what they're getting at with that one. And so I've mentioned this a couple of times in the PowerPoint 2016 course. Make sure you understand the distinction between having a cursor and having a dotted line here versus having the solid line here. And then, again, any change you make is going to affect the entire box now. So, you're welcome, Mo. Good question. You know, the funny thing is, most books I've seen haven't explained all that concept all that well. But to me, it's pretty cut and dry. Either you've got a cursor and you're just affecting what you've selected, or you have the entire box selected. And the border on the outside dictates everything. So. Okay, any other questions? And make sure I don't save any of these changes I made.
Looks like everyone's good to go. No more questions?
Do I need a space after referencing a sheet name? You mean like in a formula? No. Key differences between, no, you don't. In fact, you don't want one. In fact, if you do put one in, usually they'll just correct it for you. But no space. If you're going to put a formula in for a sheet name, you need an exclamation point after the sheet name, not a space. I'll show you. Okay, so if I go over here, all right, we'll say I put a formula in here. Now, I'm actually just going to click my way through it. But notice that when I do that, it actually puts quotation marks around the sheet name and then an exclamation point here. So there's no space there, no, not at all. There was something else in there. Key differences between 2013 and 2016. Yeah, Aaron, I can sum that up pretty quickly. It's called not a whole lot. I'll show you the biggest differences are these. Okay, first of all, when you're on the ribbon, this is in 2016. You can use the Tell Me feature. Now, I say this because I say this in jest because. So let's say I want to know how to I don't know, show page breaks. What the Tell Me feature does, as opposed to earlier versions of Offices, see, in the earlier versions of Office, you would just get the help feature, and then you'd have to read a bunch of stuff and hope you get the right answer. But in Office 2016, what the Tell Me feature does is it actually brings you right to that tab. So if I want to show page breaks, for example, now I'm just going to click on Page Break Preview, and there you go. So that's a feature. Now, the reason why I sort of chuckled when I said this is because guess what they don't let you use on the test to get your work done? They don't let you use a Tell Me feature. So, I mean, it's good to know. It's great for real life. It won't help you on the test one bit. And then the other, Aaron, the biggest thing with Office 2016 is this share feature you see over here. What this allows you to do with Word, Excel, and PowerPoint is this allows you to share this to the cloud, specifically a OneDrive folder. And then once it's shared with the cloud, you actually can have multiple people working on the document at once, which is both good and bad. It's good in the sense that if you're in a meeting with somebody, you can collaborate real time. You just need to make sure you put somebody in charge of reviewing changes for later so you know which changes you're going to keep. But those, listen, Office 2013 to 16 is not a major upgrade. There's only really 3 things that they really note as significant. I just showed you 2, and I'll show you the 3rd right now. So let's say, here's one for you. All right, so let's say I'm looking for, let's say I'm using a word too many times. Let me bring up the Word document here because you'll see this more often in Word. So let's just say that I'm using a word too many times. And I want to maybe do some changes here. Now, you've got the thesaurus has been around forever. But if I right-click on something and go to Smart Lookup, this is something new to Office 2016. Smart Lookup allows you to take something, you can get a definition here, you can explore something on Wikipedia, you can do an image search, which probably shouldn't have chosen that word, but oh well. But there's a lot of different things that you can get. Like if I look up earned value management, this is a project management term here. Let's say I need to get a better definition here. So I'm going to do a Smart Lookup. And I'm probably going to see a Wikipedia, yep, right there. Wikipedia article, web search on Bing. So that Smart Lookup's pretty cool. It's not something you're going to use all the time, but it is new to 2016. So, oh, you're welcome, Aaron. But yeah, those are your big 3 as far as differences. There's really not a lot of change going in 2016. Oh, well, yeah, the color's different up here, but so what? No big deal. Okay, anything else? All right, well, just a final recap then. Just remember for the 2016 test, you got multiple projects instead of a single project. And before you sit for the exam, make sure you know how to use the ribbon to get to those different styles and hover your mouse over the style to see the correct one. When you're asked to choose that, and make sure it matches up exactly with what the test question is asking for. And then also make sure you understand the backstage view a bit. And there's one more, just I should have said this earlier, and I apologize because a couple people are going to miss it, but hopefully they catch the recording. The most important thing you can do on the exam is follow directions, meaning just do what they ask you. You know, if you've got 3 headings there and they ask you to format 2 of them, don't format the 3rd one. That's actually wrong. So only do the task that's in front of you. Don't worry about a real-life situation is what I'm saying. So, do I plan on coming back? Oh, I'm sure I will one of these days. I'm just not sure when. I'll have to talk to Grace and Tristan about that. See if they'll let me pinch hit again. So,
welcome anytime, Jason. Anytime's fine for me.
Yeah. Now it all depends when I'm filming and not filming. Like filming days are hard for me to get away, but if I'm not filming, I can usually, take an hour and meet with you fine people. Sure, love it.